Okay, so we'll look at the other topics of classes and objects chapter. So next topic is nothing but the destructors. Okay. Okay. So just look at this term destructor. Say, if we consider this word from English language, destruct means to destroy. Okay. So it is the opposite of constructor. So opposite of construct is to destruct. Okay. So but how that meaning is applied in programming language we see. So a destructor, as the name implies, is used to destroy the object that have been created by a constructor. So constructor will create an object, whereas destructor will destroy the object. Destroy the object in the sense, whatever the memory allocated for an object will be released. So will be released means like other program can use that memory. See, in a program, when we declare the variable, memory will be allocated. Whenever we declare the variable, memory will be allocated. So whenever program execution is done, whenever we close the program, so that memory will be taken back from the computer. Okay. See, for example, uh, if we are sitting in the chair, okay, so when we get up, that means that that chair can be used by some other person. So it is like that. It is not that it is reserved. Okay, so it can be used by some other person. Similarly, in programming language also, for example, if I say a is a variable of type integer, integer occupies 2 bytes of memory. So once program is executed and when we close an application, so that memory will be released. So that memory can be used by some other program. So that is the meaning of destroying the object. Destroying the object means whatever the memory is given for an object that will be released. So a destructor, as the name implies, is to destroy the objects that have been created by the constructor. Like constructor, a destructor is the member function whose name is same as the class name, but is preceded by the tilde symbol. For example, the destructor for class A is, sorry, class employee is employee. See, similarity is for constructor, the name of constructor and name of class will be same. Similarly, the name of destructor and the name of class will be same. That is the similarity. Because whether the constructor or destructor, both are called as member functions. Even constructor is called member function and destructor is called member function. Member function means which belongs to class. So constructor is a member function which will be having same name as the class name. Destructor is also a member function which will be having the same name as the class name. But functionality is opposite. Okay, constructor gives the values for the objects, that is along with the memory. Destructor will take back the memory allocated for the object. Okay, and whenever we write the destructor, we have to use this symbol, tilde symbol. On the keyboard, it is present top left corner of the keyboard, where we see 1, 2, 3 numbers. There it is there. On some keys of the keyboard, we have two symbols, either the digit and the symbol, or the symbol and the some two symbols. So if we use the shift key, we'll come to know how to use those symbols. Similarly, this is called a tilde symbol. It is nothing but like a negation symbol in mathematics. So in mathematics, we have a concept called as negation. So negation means opposite. So this symbol we have to use for destructor. So if the class name is employee, destructor name will be also employee. Okay. Say for example, so if we consider like class A, if I want to write the constructor, first thing what you have to do, public section. In public section, constructor means class name and function name should be same. Then that is called as constructor. So now in this example, so this part of code is called as constructor. Okay. So this A is called as the constructor. Now if I want to write the destructor, destructor means again, so this symbol you have to use, that is tilde symbol. So it looks like a wave symbol. Okay. Then A, opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis, and opening brace, closing brace. So this is the destructor. So this part of the code is called as constructor. Okay. For constructor, tilde symbol will be not there. That is wave-like symbol. For destructor, that symbol will be there. Okay, this is destructor. Okay. For constructor and destructor, same properties, like class name and function name will be same. So A is the class name, A is the constructor name, and A is the destructor name. Okay. Next. So here if you consider employee as the class name, then employee will become the destructor name. Okay. So opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis, and opening brace and closing brace. This is complete destructor. Okay. Next. So we'll see the properties of destructor. Okay. A destructor never takes any argument, nor does it return any value. So just like constructor, it will not return any value. Okay, I said like some properties will match and some properties are opposite. Okay, so here destructor never takes any argument, nor does it return any value. So in case of constructor also, it will not return any value. Okay, but in case of constructor, values can be taken, that is arguments can be taken. See, for example, see if I want to write two constructors, say one more constructor, say, that is possible, we can write. But what you have to do is at least one parameter you have to write to make the difference between the first constructor and the second constructor. And if you want to write one more constructor, okay, write A, int A, comma, int B, two parameters constructor. So this is also allowed. That means constructor can take no parameters, that is called default constructor. Constructor can take one parameter, constructor can take two parameters. That means even more than two parameters also it is possible. So zero parameters, 1, 2 or more than 2. But for the destructor, compulsory you should leave as it is without writing anything. So here you should not write any parameter, not even a single variable. So that is the property of destructor. So destructor will not take any argument. And about return value. So if suppose for a function, if I write like this, int, okay, before starting the function name, if you write int, it will return integer value. If you write float, it will return floating point value. If you don't write anything here, then that is nothing but it will not return any value. So for any type of constructor, it will not return any value. And even you should not write void also. So void is also not allowed. So we have 6 basic types: int, float, char, double, void, boolean. None of the data types are used here. Okay, you should not use any data type. Even for a destructor also, you should not use any data type. Okay. Next. Okay. So a destructor never takes any argument, nor it does it return any value. It will be invoked, called implicitly. Implicitly meaning automatically. Explicitly meaning manually. So implicitly meaning automatically. Implicitly by the compiler upon exit from the program or a block or a function to clean up storage that is no longer accessible. Okay. If a destructor is declared in a program, it releases memory space upon exit from the program for future use. See, one best example I will give you. So when we were small, like 5 or 6 years or 4 years, 5 years child, so we used to play in the mud. So whenever we have constructed the something like building in the by use of mud, so after all the game is over, so we used to destroy and go. The meaning of that is no longer needed for us. So when we are going home, we used to destroy. That doesn't mean that we are carrying that mud to home. We are leaving mud there only, but we are destroying whatever we have done. So that mud can be used by some other person. So same thing here also. The release of memory means it can be used by other program or other user. That is the meaning of release of memory, freeing that memory. So it will be invoked. Invoked means it starts working. Invoking is nothing but it starts working. So how it starts working? Implicitly meaning automatically. We need not write any extra statement to call the destructor. It is worked automatically by the compiler upon exit from the program or a block or a function. So when the program is done, so after at the end of execution of the program or a block or a function, destructor function will be called. So why it is used? To clean up storage that is no longer accessible. That means after the program is executed, after the work is done, when we close the application, that means no work we are doing with that program. So memory will be released. Again, when you start executing that program, memory is allocated by the constructor. So whenever the program starts working, memory will be allocated by the constructor. Whenever the program is ended, when we close an application, then memory will be released by the destructor to clean up the storage that is no longer accessible. If a destructor is declared in a program, it releases memory space upon exit from the program for future use. Future use in the sense by other program or by other user. Okay, next. See here, with respect to objects, that is classes and objects, we have two types of objects, local objects and global objects, okay, that we have to consider, like local variables and global variables in C programming. Here we have local objects and global objects. So local objects are created when their block is entered and destroyed when the block is left. Global objects are destroyed when the program terminates. Say, before I go to the local objects and the global objects, let us try to understand local variable and global variable so that we feel easy for local objects and global objects. See, whenever we write the program, we start with the header files. Okay, so immediately after header files, in case of C program, directly we can start with the main function. So this is how we write the program. Now let us consider we have written main function and also one more function called as sum. So just to add two numbers, we have written the sum function. Okay, so let me take it as like int c. C is equals to a plus b. Okay, so this is one function. Now, so in case of local variable, what happens? See, whenever you declare the variable within opening brace and closing brace, those variables are called as local variables. That should be present within opening brace and closing brace. So here C is a local variable. Okay, and you have to mention local variable with respect to what? Local variable with respect to some function. Next, if I declare one variable, say like int x, comma y. Okay, so here x and y are local variables to main. With respect to main function, x and y are local variables. And with respect to some function, c is a local variable. About a and b will not worry because a and b are the arguments, parameters. So that is a different concept. So here you have to concentrate on c and x and y. So x and y variables are local variables with respect to main function because it refers only to main function. It cannot be used in some function. And c is a local variable with respect to some function. It cannot be used in main function. So once again, I'm telling x and y variable you should use only in the main function within opening brace and closing brace of main function. Whereas c variable you should use only in the sum function. There is one more type of variable where we declare above the main function. So for example, if we declare like z, okay, so this variable is called as global variable. The meaning of that is, say, the word global only tells it can be accessed anywhere. If I say globally means can be accessible in the world, total world, like that. Or if you consider like one country, one particular country, for that if you call globally means total country can be accessed. But if you say local, the name itself tells within the some boundary. If you say local bus, that means within some city, for example, Ballari, like that. Okay. Now, if you're calling it z as global variable means this z variable you can use either in the main function or in the sum function or both. Wherever you want, you can use. See, in the main function, I am changing the value of z to 10, and in the sum function, I am changing the value of z to 20. Both are allowed. So z equals to 10, that is also correct. Z equals to 20, that is also correct. It will not get any error because it is called as global variable. From the point of declaration, you can use till the end of the program, you can use. But whereas local variables within opening brace and closing brace only you have to use. For example, if x and y, if I try to change the x value in the sum function, for example 11, so here this line indicates error, you cannot change. Similarly, if you try to change c value inside the main function, so c is equals to say 100, so at this point you will get error. But if you observe for z, you will not get any error. So that is called as global variable. Similarly, we have local objects and global objects. So local objects and global objects means, like for example, class A have declared. Okay, see, whenever we write the class, okay, at the end of the class, generally we put semicolon. So that is the syntax. So at the end of the class, generally we put semicolon. Before you put semicolon, if you are creating object, like for example, A comma B, I have written. So these two are called as objects. You should not call it as variables, you call it as an objects. For class, you call it as an object. For normal variables, you call it as variables. Okay, here objects. So before you put semicolon, if you are writing some variables here, like identifiers, you can call it as an identifiers. General word we can use identifiers. It will come for all things: class names, array names, function names, object names, variable names, everything. So objects are nothing but identifiers. If you're writing identifiers here, these are objects, and these objects refer to the global objects. Okay, these objects refers to the global objects. Now I have written the class A. Next I will go for main function. So in the main function, if I am writing A, say for example x is an object. So here x is called local object. I hope you people are getting. Okay, because x object have declared within opening brace and closing brace of main. So it refers to only main function. So it is called as local object. But A and B have declared before the main function. So it is called as global objects. So these are nothing but local and global objects. Now, so what happens when we create like this? So I will tell you. So what happens? Okay. See, we know the concept of constructor. So we have to write in the public section A. Okay. This is the constructor. So that concept we know. Class name and constructor name will be same. Okay. Now, when this constructor starts working, that we should know, because it is a function. So whenever we write a function, we should know when it starts working. We have to write one particular line which will make this function to work for constructor as well as normal functions. Okay. Now, if you consider the objects of a class, we have three objects here. Okay, that is A, B, and X. Three objects and two types of objects: global objects and local objects. The concept is, whenever the object is created, constructor should be called. That means whenever the object is created, this function should start working. Okay. Now, three times this function should work. That is for A, for B, and for X. So this is the concept. That is, whenever the object is created, this function should start working. That is, constructor should start working. So the property of constructor is called whenever the object is created. Constructor is called whenever the object is created, whether local object or global object. So for global object, before main function starts working only, this constructor will be called. So just main function starts working, immediately this constructor will be called. For local object, when program control comes inside the main function, it starts working. We will see the program. We will come to know how it